I'm Kristen. I am from Madison, Wisconsin, in the United States, and I have been in Germany for almost 2 years now. And I came here because I'm teaching at an international school around Stuttgart, and I've taught at a number of other schools around the world. So I'm used to kind of moving into new places, and yeah, I'm happy to be here and talk about Germany.
What do you like about Germany?
Um, Germany is really easy to live in. It's it's very livable. Like the the quality of life is very high. I think there's a really good work life balance. People work to live, they don't live to work. And especially as someone in the United States, coming from the United States, where we really work too hard, um, having that work life balance is really nice. And I can definitely feel it at my school. I feel like I'm working less hours than I've worked in other places. And there's a lot of protection for workers' rights and for resting here.
What's your usual schedule at work?
So it's interesting because this is the first school that I've ever been at where if you're not teaching classes, you don't need to be there because apparently that's what happens in the German system. So our school day goes from around 8 o'clock to 3:30. But if I don't have a class that I have to teach and I don't have other duties, then I can technically leave, which
Mhm.
is amazing. That's never happened at any other school. But it's Monday to Friday.
And what about the health insurance? And because I know in America don't have this from the government, and here you do.
Correct. So what's interesting in the United States is if you have a good job, like a government job, and you get healthcare through your job, you can have very good healthcare. So I was fortunate enough as a child and through to now, because I'm a teacher, that I've had excellent healthcare in the United States. But if I didn't have that, and for example, when I go back during breaks, I don't have health insurance in the United States. I need to buy an emergency policy, which is a pain and expensive, and it shouldn't be that way. So being able to have health insurance that is essentially free. I mean, I've never paid out of pocket for anything that I've gotten here, has been great. The thing that has been difficult and a bit frustrating is that it's hard to find doctors. So I had to wait for a long time um, to get in to see a gynecologist, for example. And part of the problem, I think, is just learning a new system. And since I don't speak German well, that's difficult also. It just adds another layer of complexity because I need an English speaking doctor, which again, I'm grateful that they have that service and that there are English speaking doctors, but it does make it a little bit more difficult.
Since we talked about the language, do you think someone who comes here from USA can survive without a basic knowledge of German?
Yes, I think it's a place where people speak excellent English, more so than many other countries. It's a place that you definitely could come without speaking any German. Now, should you? No, right? I'm someone that definitely believes that if you move to another country, you need to make an effort to learn the language. But it has certainly been very helpful that people have an excellent level of English here, at least in the Stuttgart area.
So you never encounter some difficult situation because of your lack of German?
I've had a few, but anytime that there has been an issue, there's usually been someone that is another employee, for example, that can help me.
Mm.
I think my German is, even though I'm making an effort, my German is at a low enough level that there's always someone that speaks much better English than my German.
And what about some good experiences you had here and you remember forever?
One of the things that I've really enjoyed is going to the Cannstatter Wassen, the Stuttgart equivalent of Oktoberfest, buying a dirndl and kind of learning the traditions and learning some of the German songs.
What about the social circle? How is it to find friends and or make friends here?
So most of my friends have been friends that I've made through the school, or friends that um are from other countries that are also immigrants or expats that are here. Um, I think that's for a few different reasons. One, because those are just people that I'm naturally interacting with. Like, I made some friends from salsa class, for example, and it's a salsa class in English, so it's going to be people that are more likely to be from
International.
international, yeah, from other places. Um, so I think that's maybe one regret that I have, or one thing that I would do differently next time is really try to make more German friends.
What about as a woman here in Germany? How is the payment?
As a teacher, generally we're on a specific pay scale anyway, so gender doesn't really play into that. I know that there's excellent maternity leave here and paid maternity leave, which would be wonderful. And I know many of my colleagues take advantage of that and are very grateful for that. And that's wonderful that they get time that they can spend with their young children. Um, I think as a woman, Germany has been wonderful because I feel very, very safe. I don't get harassed or get catcalled or anything, which sometimes can happen in other countries. I think there's a lot of respect for women. There's lots of women in politics and in high positions in companies and such. So I think it's definitely a great place for women to come.
You told me you will go away. Do you want to come back?
That's a good question, and I've been grappling with that recently too. Would I come back? Yes, I would definitely keep that open. One thing that is very appealing about Germany is that now you can get citizenship in only 5 years or a little bit over 5 years. So I had considered that, may try to come back and do that at some point. As an American, having a European Union passport is really amazing. And I've lived in other countries in Europe and really love, especially with everything that's going on in the United States right now. So I would definitely stay open to potentially coming back to Germany. I would make more of an effort to learn German. My German's probably maybe A2 right now. So I would definitely take classes and do a little bit more. One thing that's been very hard for me here is the winters. It's very, very dark. I didn't realize that there were so many hours of darkness, I guess, because it just with the weather, it's cloudy and gray and not a fun place to be in the winter from, well, mostly January to March. So that's actually been really hard. I think I would need to plan ahead a bit more. Like I even bought one of the seasonal depression lamps. So that has helped a little bit. But then once the spring comes, it's much better.
You told me you've been to other countries in Europe. Can you tell me which countries?
Yeah, so I lived in Switzerland for 4 years, working at a boarding school in the mountains. I lived in Spain for a year, and when I was in college, I studied abroad in France.
And from all these countries, including Germany, which one you like the most?
Mm, I think I probably have to say Switzerland, but it's
No.
no. There's such different situations. Madrid is like the really big city life. Uh, when I was in Switzerland, like I said, I was in the mountains, so it was like free skiing and beautiful, beautiful views all the time. What I miss in Stuttgart is having mountains or water, but I think Germany has been wonderful in the sense that it's very, like I said, very livable, very easy to live here. Like it's quiet, people are respectful. It's maybe a little too quiet for me. I think if I had kids, it would be an amazing place to bring a family and bring children, and I would just feel so safe about having them here. But I do really like a lot of things about Germany. I would definitely consider coming back.
What were the cultural differences you encountered when you came first here?
One of the big differences is the focus on quiet and the Ruhetag, so like the silent day on Sunday. And like I said, I've lived other places in Europe, so I'm used to lots of stores being closed on Sunday, but I don't think I was prepared for how much that would be here in Stuttgart. And I know it's different in other places in Germany too. Like in Berlin, there are a few more things open. But, Sunday, it's very much like even the grocery stores aren't open. So that was definitely a bit of a culture shock. And you need to kind of plan for that. So I always have to make sure that I go grocery shopping on Saturdays with everybody else that's at the supermarket. Even just not like the places where you put glass, they have signs that are like, don't do this on Sunday, don't do it from I don't know, 7 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock in the morning. So like very, very specific things. I would never ever think about like maybe I shouldn't vacuum on a Sunday, or like if I'm exercising, like not to make noise in my apartment. So that's been a bit of a shock. I do appreciate the silence, especially like on the public transportation, for example. That's very nice that people aren't listening to loud music, because in other countries you often hear someone's music when they're sitting on the other side of the car.
If you come back to America, do you think you'll take some ideas from Germany and bring them back?
Mm, yes. Oh, that's a great question. What will I bring from Germany? I think the work-life balance. Another silly thing is fresh cut flowers. Like there are places here where you can just walk out into the fields and cut flowers to buy, and then also the things that people leave that are zu verschenken, like just to give away on the street. It's been interesting to think how the experience here compares to my experiences in other places, because I also lived in Colombia and Singapore. And so I'm very used to kind of moving around. So I think it was less culture shock than maybe someone that has not moved out of their country before. I think for me, I also had this idea of I had been to Berlin before many times, and I'd traveled a little bit throughout other parts of Germany, even just kind of learning the differences within Germany, the regional differences, like how Baden-Württemberg here is very much different than Berlin, right? Or very different from the former East Germany.
Have you been to East Germany
I have a little bit, yeah, not a lot.
and you felt safe there as a foreigner?
As a foreigner, yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me some hard truths about Germany, because you're going away, nobody can catch you? Something which usually people don't talk about, and it's really important to know.
uh, One thing that was a surprise that I had wish I'd known is apartment rentals. So in other places that I had lived, either the school provided the housing or you were able to get an apartment pretty quickly. Like, you look at the advertisements, you call, and it's open and you can get it that week even. Here, the apartment rentals tend to be 2 years. And so that ended up being very difficult for me because I came to cover someone's sabbatical. So I did 1 year. It was a 1 year contract. So I couldn't originally get a 2 year contract. And so because of that, it ended up being much more expensive. I was limited in the places that I could rent. And they also need 2 months deposit, which is a lot. And then they have a long time to actually get it back to you. I think they have 6 months legally, maybe even more time to return it. So I think the kind of time, how long things are, is something that I had no idea about. But there's an attitude of like long term permanence here that doesn't happen necessarily in other places. For example, I've also seen a social media post, an advertisement on Instagram the other day for a Frida Kahlo exhibit that was coming. And I was like, oh, great, cool. When is this happening? Thinking, oh, maybe it's happening now or maybe next month, right? But it's soon, right? So right now it's June. It was for December, right? So that is something that would never happen, even in all the other cultures that I've lived in. Like, there's just not that length of time where you're planning so far ahead. And like almost all the restaurants here, you need reservations. There's not a lot of spontaneity, right? Everything is kind of planned out and very purposeful.
What about the bureaucracy? Because I know even when you have to rent, you have to prepare some documents.
Yeah.
I think it's called Schufa, and you have to show that you're eligible to rent. How was your experience with
Yeah,
this?
it's been very difficult. This, of the places that I've lived, this has been the most difficult to move into and to move out of. And part of that is for a number of different reasons that are not necessarily related to Germany, but the German requirements, like, yes, I had to get the Schufa, like, now I'm in the process of getting a background check for the place that I'm going next. For example, everything is also very tied to your apartment, to where you live. Like, you had to register when you moved. That was very, very important. I had to get a document from the rental company. They certify that I don't have too many people living in my house, for example, which these are just things that I've never heard of in other countries. And then now that I'm moving out, I went the other day to get a background check, and I need to get a background check, and then it needs to be apostilled from the German government. So these are kind of two different things. And I'm leaving in a month, and I submitted it, and they can't send it anywhere else, apparently. So it has to come to this address. Well, I'm not going to be here in a month, so I don't know if I'm going to get it on time despite all that. So there's just a lot of things where you go in and it's like, no, but this is the way it's done. Like, there's nothing else. That's how it is.
But can they send to the school while you're working?
Well, no, because they told me they have to send it to my home address.
But you're not here.
Right, I know. So then they told me, well, you can forward the mail, and I said, well, I don't think that's gonna happen. So we'll see. I'm hopefully gonna get it. They said in 2 weeks, and then I'll have to figure out before I send it to the next place to get the apostille. But there have been a lot of instances like that. So that has been very difficult. And I think if I did it again, I would either plan on staying longer, or I would have honestly thought twice about coming here as an international teacher just for a 1 year contract, because the hassle to move in and move out for just a year is not worth it. So I think if you are going to come here, I would say plan on being here at least 2 years, probably more, just because you're going to put so much effort into moving and settling in.
I hope you'll get a document.
Yes, thank you.
And do you have any last advices for people which want to come here and are scared?
Uh-huh. One thing I think that has been very positive, and maybe this is again because I was comparing it to Berlin, people have been more friendly than I thought, or at least they've been kinder than I thought. So even though, of course, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of things where you have to go through, jump through different hoops to get documents and get all these things, people have not been mean to me. I had a couple experiences in Berlin where people were just downright mean. But here, I think in Stuttgart, people are not overly friendly. They're not going to start talking to you. They may not smile at you on the street. Like, obviously, as an American, we smile at everybody, and we just start, oh, how are you doing? Like, oh, what a cute dog. That doesn't happen here.
Yeah, the small talk.
The small talk, yeah, you don't start talking to strangers that you don't know. But I think as long as you know that, it will be fine. If I hadn't known that coming here, I think that would have been a bit of a shock. But every time that I've needed help with something, people have been very kind and very nice and helped me when I needed it.
Any life advice?
Well, as someone who has moved all the time around the world, of course, I'm going to say that if you're thinking about coming to Germany, you definitely should. I think there's nothing more eye-opening than moving to another country, no matter where you're from, no matter what you've done in the past or what you might do in the future. That opportunity is really a special one, and so if you have it, you should take it. And I think you need to just come with an open mind. And honestly, the situations where you learn the most are the situations where you're learning more about yourself. I think being in another country can be a lot like holding up a mirror, where when you see something else happen that's very different from your culture, it makes you realize, oh, wow, actually, in my culture, we do things very, very different. And I could see how other people could view my culture differently. Make an effort to learn the language, obviously, because language and culture are so intertwined, they really can't be separated.